Hey guys, it's Kim here and welcome back to my Game of the Year Roundup. Today's victim of choice is Mr. Rythian. Hello, Rythian.
Hello, victim? Really? Can I... Is that the term of choice for this?
Yeah, sure.
I'm suddenly not so happy about... You know what, actually, Kim, I'm not sure I have time. A lot of stuff to do today.
Games.
I gotta...
Let's talk about video games. Okay, so companion.
Wash my hair.
My companion of choice? Oh, come on.
Okay.
Your hair...
Companion.
Dude, hair takes like, what, 10 minutes
Guest?
for the bars? So...
Can I be a guest?
You can be a guest.
Yeah.
You can be a guest. So,
right,
my guest for today is Monsieur Rythian.
I'm French. All right.
Yeah, let's begin, shall we? So, in at number 5, what is your 5th game of the year?
5th game of the year is going to go to an expansion, actually, of an existing game. Normally, I wouldn't go for expansions because, well, full games are out. But honestly,
also, I'm not sure if that's allowed.
It's allowed. I'm making it allowed.
You're making it allowed?
From now on, it's allowed.
Okay, fine. You're breaking the rules already. You haven't even started, like, you've not even reached a minute and you're already breaking the rules. Okay. Carry on then. What's your expansion?
StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm is number 5.
Ah, okay.
Now, StarCraft 2 was pretty good. It had a pretty fun campaign. It's good multiplayer. There were some cool custom maps to enjoy when you played. Really, there was good stuff. But when they released the expansion, they really took what they had and just completely went into overdrive.
Yeah.
The campaign is much cooler. You have almost more of like a hero-focused thing. You almost always have Kerrigan controlling in the map. You level up. You choose skills and passives for as you do so. There's a bit of a non-linear feel to it. You can visit different planets and do different stories. You get to... The story also really kicks into overdrive. The first part of the trilogy of expansions was mostly about overcoming the Dominion, and then eventually you got into the Kerrigan story towards the end. This one is all about like what it means to be a Zerg and what Kerrigan needs to be. And it was very, very entertaining, and it's a shame a lot of people in our circle of friends who quite enjoyed the first one didn't really go for Heart of the Swarm much, and I've been trying to push it onto people because I just say it's actually really good. You should definitely play it.
So what does it mean to be a Zerg?
Well, that would be spoilers, pretty much. But yeah, there's a whole deal about purity of form, purity of essence, corruption, non-corruption. I mean, corruption is pretty much a recurring theme in Blizzard games, but it's good. It's good. It works, and it's nice. You get to see the primal Zerg because you get to visit the Zerg homeworld, which you've never been on before. It's some cool stuff.
So as someone who's played StarCraft 2 but never finished it, should I carry on and like, you know, really power through it? And do I need to finish like StarCraft 2 before I play Heart of the Swarm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Let's get the most out of
There's
it.
no mincing words about this. You pretty much need to finish the first one, otherwise you'll be a little bit confused. I mean, you'll get flashbacks and you'll basically figure out what happened, but it's much better if you actually play through it. Just put it on super easy mode or something and just play through it. It's still fun, so, you know, it's worth doing. And then get into Heart of the Swarm. It's amazing.
Fair enough.
You don't need to get hardcore into laddering multiplayer if you want to, but, you know, it's good.
Fantastic. So, moving on from number 5, let's go to number 4. So, what is your 4th game of the year?
My number 4 is something I think Hannah would... be angry at me for not placing it higher, but it's Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
The awesome reboot of that series who I've always been a fan of, and they really, really kicked it into overdrive this time around. Reboot did very well in getting rid of a lot of things that were a little bit not so amazing about the previous Lara Croft games, and turn into this origin story, very gritty, very brutal, very Uncharted, as people say, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, considering Uncharted basically was inspired from Tomb Raider in the very beginning.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I found it a little bit easy, though. Like, you know, just the kind of, you know, the Uncharted aspects and the kind of climbing and adventuring and, you know, exploring around. I found it really, really easy and quite linear in some places. Like, so it almost, you know, I mean, I finished the whole game and I actually 100%ed it, but I thought perhaps that was because it was so easy. It was a nice sort of almost background game to have on, like, just to switch off to. That's
background game?
Yeah, well, because, like I said, it was just, I didn't feel particularly challenged when it came to any of the kind of climbing or, you know, shooting or exploring or anything like that. But it was nice, and I couldn't stop doing it. Like I said, got 100% on it, but yeah, didn't find it as challenging as I'd hoped, like as past Tomb Raiders.
I don't know, like I 100%ed and played a lot of Legend Anniversary, and I never quite finished Underworld, but this one I didn't quite 100%, but I enjoyed it and I finished and everything. But I don't know, I never felt that way, but then again, that's always something I've never really been bothered much about. I'm not usually the type of guy who like plays on the hardest difficulty or like play games necessarily to challenge myself, because in many cases that are very built up to be sort of an exploratory, story-driven, see everything, do everything, I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to die over. I don't want to sit there struggling with the puzzle. It's one of the worst things to, because you're in the zone and you're moving and you're finding cool things, and then suddenly you just, what the hell do I do? And then you stood there and you start like trial and error, and you just throw yourself in random places, die and respawn,
but
shoot arrows everywhere. And once you reach that point, I've sort of lose that sort of feeling of being in the zone. So I don't really want games to be that challenging most of the time, unless it is specifically a game meant to be challenging, that you play to unlock the difficulty. Such as, you know, a game like Super Meat Boy, which is like really, really hard levels towards the end.
I guess so, but
then you go to play them, and that's the entire point.
But playing devil's advocate here, the only other problem I had with it really is that there weren't actually that many tombs in it. So you had like the optional hidden ones that had secrets in them and kind of upgrades and stuff like that, but they were really small and not really that well hidden. You know, so I felt a bit let down that there wasn't, like, you know, the times when you sort of went into the shrines and the kind of halfway through the game you get captured and you wake up in a shrine that you escape from, and then there's another bit as well where you find a person's sort of grave, a tomb area, but it's so brief, and I was like, I really want to explore it, like I really want to see more. Like, I love the designs that they showed me, like the palace and that kind of thing, but you're in them for a couple of minutes and that's it. And I found it really disappointing that I couldn't go around, explore, and kind of enjoy how much detail they put into these areas and into the kind of oriental design and that. So I
think part of the problem is in the name of the game, Tomb Raider. So you expect to raid a lot of tombs, explore specific tombs, but what they've sort of made it is like, you know, instead of being in a tomb and trying to figure out the puzzle there, you're like in a big giant area, you know, and that's where you explore. That's where you like find all the secrets. That's
fine though, but
it's sort of a change.
I get what you're saying, like if you take the name, but even taking the name out, if it was just a game, if it was Uncharted, it was just the fact that it kind of gives you like a little flash of the ankle and then doesn't let you explore. Like even then, I still would have the same complaint that I would have loved to explore like the palace and that kind of thing, but you just literally, you're in it for a couple of minutes and that's it. And I thought that was a really kind of missed opportunity and something I'd like to see in the next one, maybe.
No, that's fair enough. They're making a next one. They there was some
confirmed.
news about it recently, actually.
Yeah.
So
well,
which I mean, obviously, of course, they were going to make. They're not going to stop that series. So
it was left
so that's not really
open.
you know.
Also,
surprise.
did you know that? Did you see the kind of Easter egg in this one? Like, I can't remember. Did you say you 100% a Tomb Raider? Like,
No, I didn't 100%.
Oh, right. So if you collect up all the keys, all the GPS coordinates and stuff like that, you discover 2 hidden messages, which basically allude to a bigger organization who sent a sleeper agent to this island to kind of infiltrate the secret society. So it kind of hints at a bigger organization, which Tomb Raider as a series has always had, like a kind of, you know, secret society who's sort of been in charge, almost like Templars, who've been like doing kind of shady government activities. So I think we're going to see a lot more of them in the next game.
Maybe.
But yeah, those are 2 little
I don't
secrets
know.
there.
That might be something cool. Honestly, like my favorite Tomb Raider game, aside from this one, probably was Legend, which was like the first reboot, really.
Okay.
And that had a pretty straightforward linear story as well, even though you did have the whole Atlantis or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just sort of the thing with the tomb. But like, I think that worked too. That worked in a different way. I'm not necessarily looking for a big giant conspiracy that crosses many games. It's not really what I want for in a Tomb Raider game. But you know, it could be good. In the end, honestly, Tomb Raider has never been a game about story for me. It is more about a little bit about character and the areas and just how much you do. Like it was rare that I actually started caring about the character as much as I did in this one, because I think they did a really good job about actually exploring, you know, young Lara and how she became who she was, pretty much. Even though at times it felt like it was bordering on parody and just how much punishment she took.
Yeah, a lot of screaming.
That voice actress must have.
That
voice actress
Camilla
must have pretty
Luddington,
much most of the time is like, All right, here's what you do. You just fell down, you got eaten by a bear, you're impaled by 3 sticks, and you're on fire. Go.
Okay, amazing.
So, yeah.
So, Tomb Raider in at number 4. And in at number 3, you have chosen...
Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh!
This is a 3DS turn-based RPG. Very strategic.
That is a good choice.
It's
really good
fantastic.
choice. Yeah.
Really good. I've been a fan of the Fire Emblem series ever since the Game Boy Advance, when the first one.
Same, yeah.
Or quote-unquote first one was actually the 7th one, but in England it was basically the first one that came out. And I played that game and I loved it, and I sort of grew to really enjoy the game style and the idea of like permadeath and, you know, forming good supports, finding items, figuring out exactly how to go, using the weapon triangle, eventually just stepping in with your completely overpowered characters and destroying thousands and thousands of nameless enemies, and it's just a great feeling. But this one came along and it was pretty amazing, actually. It was really cool the way you sort of made your own character. You weren't really yourself, you just sort of named yourself. It could have basically been a character with a name, but you got to sort of design it and give it a name, which is fine, I suppose. Had the whole, you know, figure out relationships for everyone, and recruit kids that came from another time, you know. It was nice.
Like for me, like I think the part that I look forward to the most in it was like essentially the romance simulation. Like, oh, who am I gonna get with? Like, oh, who do I like? Well, that was definitely my favorite.
It was like, in theory, it's like romance simulation, but it wasn't much romance. It's basically all about like having them fight with each other all the time. But with the whole support system, like where you worked as a double unit and so on.
Yeah.
Really well. Like,
I thought that was
make
fantastic.
Some insane combinations.
Yeah. Like pairing people up so they kind of played off each other, and then I love that they could rank up together. Like for me, that was probably the best feature.
Really cool.
Yeah, definitely. How many hours did you spend in it? I spent far too much.
So much time. So much time. I had the some of the DLC as well.
Yeah.
Which gave you that like repeatable areas where you can get a lot of experience and a lot of gold and stuff, and that ate up a lot of my time. I ended up like planning out like the super awesome team and stuff, and you know, obviously the kids were always extra awesome because they carry down the skills and the stats and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That is a strong choice. Really good choice there. So, moving on from Fire Emblem Awakening, number 2, what do you got?
Number 2, oh, this is a hard one.
Yeah?
Number 1 and number 2 this year was hard. I couldn't quite decide.
I get a feeling I know which one's... Oh, I don't know. I know which one's going to be in the top 2.
You know one of these two, I'm pretty sure, but one of them is going to be a bit of a surprise, I think. So, number 2, just barely beaten by number 1, is Phoenix Wright's Ace Attorney Dual Destinies.
Oh, okay.
It's just fantastic. It's absolutely everything I would have wanted in a Phoenix Wright game. Now, this is the sort of game that if you haven't played any of the first ones, you might as well not even bother playing it. But if you have played 1, 2, 3, and 4, then this is number 5 in a series, and it is absolutely fantastic. You get to do all the cool loring, like all the characters you see are the ones you've seen growing in many games. You get the same cool music, the same cool moments, with a couple of new amazing ones. I don't know, have you ever played a Phoenix Wright game before?
I've played bits, but I've never really I've never done a proper one, and you know, so I know what it is and I know how it works, but I've not really invested in it.
Yeah, well, the basic, idea is the whole lawyer thing and objection, and you figure out, basically it's an adventure game and a puzzle game and so on. And you get the evidence and you talk to the guy and you figure out that he's the villain, and then he freaks out and you go, haha, and everything is great, you know, that sort of stuff. What they make they make it such a good moment in this one. Every time you're just about to get the big break of the game, you get this big zoom in on the guy. He sort of like freezes time, and he like thinks about it, talks to himself in the brain, and he's like, all right, what's the plan here? So if we turn the gates around, we realize that it couldn't have actually been opportunity number 8, which means that it must have been one of these things. And you get this like burning beam of light going across the screen, and you know, and you like gradually lead yourself to the final solution until the real killer was a third party, and then he zooms out and he's just like, ching, that big pointy like thing is like, objection, the real killer was a third party, and then the music kicks off and dun, 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 and you know, it's, oh man.
I don't think...
It's such an emotional roller coaster, that game. In such a small little game where basically you have a few animations and it's mostly just text and a couple of stock sound effects, they just managed to pull it off so good that you just sit there and you like shout and you like clench your fist and go, yeah, and something happens.
I don't think I need to play it now. I just need to listen to you talking about it. That's emotional enough. Like, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
no,
pretty
this
cool.
this is a recommendation, really strong recommendation. But of course, like again, if you haven't played Ace Attorney, Justice for All, Trials and Tribulations, and Apollo Justice,
Okay.
then this isn't going to be as big for you.
No?
Like you can go into it. You do get a lot of like, you know, you find out about stuff and they tell you what everything's happening. You know, it is sort of available for new players, but you're not going to care as much because you haven't played an entire game as Apollo Justice, so you don't get why it's such a big deal that he's coming there and his arms are bandaged.
Right,
you know?
okay.
You don't know like who the hell that rockstar prosecutor is and why you're supposed to care about him.
Okay, so definitely start at the beginning.
Yeah, it's one of those things you need to play the entire series. Yeah, I guess enough about Phoenix Wright, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Well, yeah, you're getting, quite emotional there. And speaking of emotion, yeah, you like my little segue there?
Nice.
So, in at number 1, I think we all know what it's going to be. So, take it away,
course.
Rythian. What is your number 1 game of the year?
BIOSHOCK Infinite
Dun, dun,
is
dun.
game of the year for the year of our Lord 2013. Because what a accomplishment this game is. To take something like BIOSHOCK, which was such an amazing thing when it came out and has such impact on people, and eventually follow that up with Infinite, which, I mean, BIOSHOCK 2 happened, but it was sort of a different company. It wasn't quite a follow-up in the same way. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love BIOSHOCK 2. It's fantastic. I think a lot of people unfairly just dismiss it. It was actually a really, really good game. But BIOSHOCK Infinite was made by the same team that did the first.
Yeah, and Ken
And
Levine.
they really knocked it out of the park. And just the emotion in the game for Elizabeth,
Yeah.
and the story and the truth behind Booker DeWitt,
Yeah,
and
oh my
Elizabeth,
gosh, yeah.
and Comstock and all of it. It's on a character and story standpoint, it's damn near unbeatable. It's incredible. The actual gameplay was very fun as well. There's cool powers, nice weapons and everything, but it's really not what I'm into the game for. It's
Yeah.
not what I care about the most.
It's the story in the world.
It worked, and at some point, it even felt a bit jarring because you were going on about this interesting conversation and so on, and you step into a room, and then suddenly there's 50 human beings that Booker just slaughters.
Yeah.
Just destroys them all of a sudden. After that, she goes talk to Elizabeth, and like, so tell me more about your past. It's just a weird feeling all of a
Just
sudden.
ignore the
when
blood
that
of my
happens.
enemies on my feet there.
Yeah, pretty
Have a
much.
coin.
So you got a little bit of a clash between like gameplay and story there, but
Yeah.
it's a fun game, and the combat is really cool. Especially if you get challenged enough, if you put it up on higher difficulty or whatever.
Oh, God,
which I never
yeah.
did, because that's not really why I played it really. But
Yeah.
a lot of people are playing with like 1999 mode and stuff, and it's really tough.
So again, for me, like, it was sort of going back to what I was saying about Tomb Raider, was that my problem with Tomb Raider was that I wasn't allowed to explore this beautiful world that it created. But what I loved about BioShock Infinite was that you were allowed to explore it, and it paid off, in the kind of the diaries, finding upgrades, and just, I think one thing that the BioShock guys are really good at doing is just setting a scene with, just almost stationary objects, like a telltale blood smear on the wall, and I don't know, a photo or something like that, or, a poster that's been secreted away in someone's safe, that kind of thing. Like,
environmental story.
Yeah,
you
they're
just see
so
something, you
good.
can understand there's something behind it.
Yeah, there's tiny
thought
human
behind
stories.
what you see in the walls.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love the most. What I love as well is that Irrational took it away from being, because you thought BioShock, under the ocean, big daddies, this whole new world, this whole kind of philosophical, scientific theories all coming out everywhere, and you think, oh, well, they're not going to create anything as good as that. But then they kind of just took everything and did the absolute opposite. They made it out in the open, beautiful colors. They gave you a partner, an AI partner that followed you around. And when I first heard about that, I was like, that's not going to be great. That's going to be annoying. That's going to be really
Yeah,
annoying.
permanent escort mission.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
but then Elizabeth is such a charming character, so endearing, so sweet. But what I appreciated as well was that she was strong enough to hold her own when she could, when she needed to.
Well, but that's kind of cheating. Like they made her invulnerable, and enemies just flat out don't go for her. So that was that part on it was kind of easy. That's not really the point. They basically made her God mode because she gives you endless amounts of money, health, ammunition, everything, which is fine. That's basically how they turn her gameplay-wise into something that you like having around instead of being annoyed that you have to carry around.
Well,
so I mean, in terms of an accomplishment, that one I don't care too much about. But like the way they turned her character into someone that you cared about, and someone that you actually grew to love, and it was fantastic. The growth from this very first second of the game, like when you know you're after this girl, and then you get a bit further in and you sort of see her in that little room and she does her dancing and stuff, and then suddenly she opens up the tear and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then all kinds of weird things
and
is
her relationship
going on, and then
with
she smashes
Songbird
you with a book.
Yeah, she hits you in the face.
Yeah, and everything about the Comstock and everything, you start wondering and what's going on,
and all the music as well.
And it builds to this. Oh, the music was beautiful. The choices they made for which famous, songs they ended up bringing in, that was well planned.
Like the Bee Gees and stuff like that. Oh my god. Like, that's what I loved as well. And I love the whole kind of like bringing things from a different world, I'm not going to say anything more on that, but just the idea of like how Elizabeth could open tears, and well, it was in the trailer, how she could open tears into almost our reality. So like that moment where she opens it and you see like Return of the Jedi on in the cinema and you hear music from our kind of world.
Revenge of the Jedi.
That. Sorry, Revenge of the Jedi.
Which is actually quite interesting. It was supposed to originally be called Revenge of the Jedi, and then they changed the title because George Lucas said a Jedi doesn't take revenge. So they changed it to Return of the Jedi. So therefore, when you see the title Revenge of the Jedi, you realize that it's not just a different time. It's like a different reality.
Well, nice
And that's
spot.
sort of like part of the clue, if you catch that in the very beginning.
Really nice spot
things
then.
like that.
I didn't spot that at all. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people don't really recognize it because obviously it's in French. Like, it's Revanche or le Jai or whatever it was said. So most people don't really think about it that much, but that's what it is. Yeah. Oh man, there's so much good stuff there. And
you're gonna go play it now, aren't you?
To go in, well, to go in to it a lot more would be to spoil it, basically.
Yeah.
But it becomes so much more than what you think it is in the beginning. It becomes such a big thing, big moment, and there are so many moments that stick with you in that game. It is a game I'm going to forever remember, and it's like high up on the list of favorite games that I've ever played. So if any game deserves to be number one for 2013, it's BIOSHOCK Infinite.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Rythian. So that's been a pretty good year for you then.
Yeah, I'd say it was pretty good. Like 2012 had some pretty kick-ass games coming out as well, but 2013 managed to definitely keep up. I've had some great gaming times this year.
Thank you very much for joining me, Rythian, and here's to 2014.
Yeah, indeed.